The invitation to my cousin Victoria's wedding was exactly what you'd expect from Manhattan's self-proclaimed next big fashion influencer. A handcrafted silk envelope containing a gold-embossed card that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Not that it mattered. I'd already heard from 3 different relatives that I wasn't actually expected to attend. "It's not personal, Maya," my Aunt Charlotte had said during her carefully worded phone call. "Vicky just wants everything to be perfect. You understand, right?" What she meant was that my sensible shoes and unfashionable job as a small-time seamstress didn't fit her daughter's carefully curated aesthetic. The fact that I'd been designing and making clothes since we were children, that I'd helped Vicky create her first fashion blog, that I'd spent countless hours teaching her about fabric and fit, none of that mattered now that she had 500,000 Instagram followers and a wedding budget bigger than most people's annual salary. I placed the invitation on my workbench next to the sketchbook where I'd been developing ideas for her wedding dress for the past year. Not that she'd asked me to. But old habits die hard, and I'd always designed for Vicky ever since we were kids playing dress-up in my mother's sewing room. My phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Charlotte. "Vicky's having a crisis. Her designer just quit. Something about creative differences. She's hysterical. Any chance you know someone who could help?" I stared at the message, thinking about the sketch that had arrived in my email 3 months ago. Alessandro Romano, the famous designer Vicky had hired, had sent it asking for my opinion. We'd been corresponding ever since, though Vicky had no idea. "The design lacks soul," he'd written. "Your cousin demands luxury. But she cannot define what that means beyond labels and prices. You understand construction, the poetry of fabric. Help me create something worthy of being called art." So I had. Late at night, after finishing my regular clients' alterations and repairs, I'd sketch and send ideas. Alessandro would refine them, add his signature flourishes, send them back. Together, we developed something beautiful. A gown that honored both high fashion and true craftsmanship. But last week, something had changed. Alessandro's messages became terse, frustrated. "Your cousin demands changes that would destroy the integrity of the design. She wants to add elements from various celebrity gowns, a mishmash of stolen ideas with no coherence. I cannot do it." I tried to mediate, to suggest compromises. But Vicky had always been stubborn, especially when she thought her social media reputation was at stake. Now I faced a choice. I could recommend another designer, someone who would give Vicky exactly what she wanted. A derivative collection of borrowed ideas designed to get likes and shares. Or I picked up my phone and called Alessandro. "Ah, my secret collaborator," he answered. "I assume you've heard." "That you quit?" "Yes, my aunt just texted me. This wedding, it has become a circus. All show, no substance. Like trying to create art with emojis." I took a deep breath. What if we showed her our original designs? The ones we developed together? Silence crackled over the line. "Then you reveal your involvement? Risk your cousin's anger?" Maybe it's time she remembered who first taught her to appreciate real design. Before the influencer fame, before the borrowed aesthetics. He was quiet for a moment. "The sketches we created, they are superior to anything she has proposed." But she would have to admit that her plain cousin has talent she never acknowledged. Sometimes people need to face uncomfortable truths. "Ha, you are fiercer than your cousin knows." I could hear him smiling. "Very well. I will return, but only if we do this together. You will come to the design consultation tomorrow." My hands trembled slightly as I agreed. After hanging up, I gathered my sketchbooks, not just the wedding designs, but years of work. Designs I created for Vicky long before she became Victoria the influencer, back when she still valued creativity over cachet. The next morning, I walked into Alessandro's Manhattan studio wearing my most ordinary outfit, simple black dress, practical flats, no makeup. Vicky was already there, surrounded by her entourage of bridesmaids, all looking like they'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. She saw me first. "Maya, what are you doing here? This is a private consultation." "Your cousin is here at my request," Alessandro announced, sweeping into the room with his usual dramatic flair. "In fact, she is the reason I have returned to your project." Vicky's perfect features scrunched in confusion. "What are you talking about? You don't even know Maya." "No." He pulled out a folder. "Then how do you explain these?" One by one, he laid out our sketches. Months of collaboration captured in flowing lines and detailed notes. Vicky's face went from confused to shocked to something approaching horror as she recognized my handwriting in the margins. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Maya doesn't. She can't." "Cannot what?" Alessandro asked sharply. "Cannot design. Cannot understand haute couture. Look at these sketches, Victoria. Look at the innovation in construction, the understanding of how fabric moves, the balance of traditional technique with modern aesthetics. This is what real design looks like." Her hands shook as she picked up one of the sketches, coincidentally my favorite of our designs. But you're just a seamstress," she said to me. "You fix hems and mend tiers." "I learned to sew before I learned to draw," I said quietly, "because I believe you have to understand how things are made before you can design them properly. Something you used to believe too, before Instagram metrics became more important than genuine creativity." One of her bridesmaids peered at the sketches. "These are amazing," she breathed. "Vicky, this is so much better than those celebrity knockoffs you wanted." "Shut up," Vicky snapped. This is sabotage. You've all conspired against me. First Alessandro quits, then you bring in my cousin who isn't even invited to the wedding to humiliate me." "No one is conspiring against you," Alessandro cut in. "Your cousin has been helping me design your dress for months because she knows you. The real you, not the superficial persona you've created. Every decision, every detail was chosen with your true style in mind, not what you think your followers want to see." "I don't believe you," Vicky said, but her voice wavered. "Maya's never designed anything important." Wordlessly, I opened my oldest sketchbook. There, carefully preserved, were the drawings we'd made as teenagers. Vicky in elaborate gowns, both of us dreaming of future fashion careers. Her handwriting mixed with mine in the margins, full of ideas and excitement. "You loved fashion then," I said softly. "Really loved it, not just the attention it brought. Remember when we stayed up all night designing your prom dress? How excited you were when we figured out how to make the skirt swirl exactly right." She stared at the old sketches, one hand reaching out to touch the pages before pulling back sharply. "That was different. We were kids. This is my wedding. Everything has to be perfect." "Perfect for who?" I challenged. "Your followers? The magazines? Or for you?" Before she could answer, Alessandro gathered up our wedding dress designs. "I will give you time to think. These designs represent months of work, understanding, and genuine creativity. They could make your wedding truly unique, truly yours, or you can hire someone else to copy other brides' dresses. The choice is yours." He turned to me. "Come, Maya. We have other matters to discuss." "Wait," Vicky called as we reached the door. "The blue dress. The one with the cascading panels. Can I see it again?" I hid my smile. It was the design I'd known she'd choose, based on a dress we dreamed up together years ago. But what happened next would change everything, not just about the wedding, but about our entire family dynamic. Because Vicky wasn't the only one about to face some uncomfortable truths about talent, authenticity, and the true meaning of success. Alessandro's studio was silent after Vicky and her entourage left. I sat at his work table, surrounded by our sketches, waiting for the fellow I knew was coming. Right on cue, my phone exploded with messages. "Aunt Charlotte, how could you ambush Vicky like this? You know how stressed she is about the wedding." "Mom, your aunt is hysterical." "What happened at the designers?" "3 different cousins." Did you really design Vicky's dress?" But it was the last message that made my hands shake. From Grandma Rose, the family matriarch who had first taught me to sew. "It's time, dear. Bring Alessandro and your portfolios to my house tonight. All of them." I showed the text to Alessandro. His eyebrows rose. "All of them? Does she mean?" "Everything," I confirmed. "The bridal collection I've been developing, the evening wear line, the ready-to-wear sketches." "Ah," he smiled knowingly. "So I am not the only one who has been keeping secrets." I'd never told anyone about the collections I've been creating over the years. Designs that went way beyond alterations and repairs, filling dozens of sketchbooks in my small apartment. Even my regular clients, who trusted me with their special occasion alterations, had no idea I was secretly building an entire fashion brand. "Tonight could change everything," I said quietly. "Or," Alessandro prompted, "or it could confirm what Vicky and everyone else believes, that I'm just a small-time seamstress who got lucky helping a real designer." He snorted. False modesty does not suit you. My dear, bring your work. Let them see what real talent looks like. Grandma Rose's townhouse was packed when we arrived. Apparently, she'd summoned the entire family for this showdown. Vicky sat with Aunt Charlotte, both looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. Mom stood by the fireplace, worried but supportive as always. Various aunts, uncles, and cousins filled the elegant living room. Finally, Grandma rose from her chair. Maya, Alessandro, please sit up in the dining room. Everyone else, patience. The dining table was perfect for displaying portfolios. As I laid out my work, not just the wedding designs, but years of collections, I heard gasps from the doorway. These are all yours? Cousin Emma whispered. But they're so professional? Alessandro supplied. Innovative, worthy of Paris Fashion Week? Vicky pushed through the gathering crowd. I don't understand. If you could design like this, why have you been working as a seamstress, fixing other people's clothes? Because Grandma said from her seat at the head of the table. She was learning, really learning, not just about fashion, but about how clothes work on real bodies, how different fabrics behave, what people actually need from their garments. She picked up one of my sketches, a convertible dress that could adapt to different body types. This isn't just design, it's engineering. Understanding, something no amount of Instagram followers can teach you. But Aunt Charlotte started. Enough, Grandma's voice cracked like a whip. I've watched for years as this family dismissed Maya's talent because it didn't come with a fancy label. Watch you all fawn over Victoria's social media success, while ignoring the real artistry in your midst. She turned to Alessandro. You saw it, didn't you? In those first sketches she sent you? He nodded. Raw talent, refined by years of practical experience. When Victoria hired me, I was, how do you say, burned out. Tired of creating for celebrities who only want copies of other designs. Then I saw Maya's work and I remembered why I love fashion. Which brings us to this. Grandma pulled out a heavy envelope. Maya, do you know what this is? I shook my head. Your grandfather's final gift to you. He knew, we both did, that you needed time to develop your skills away from family pressure. So he left you something in trust. A gift you'd only receive when you were ready. My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. Inside was a deed and bank statements. A small building in the garment district, an account with enough capital to launch a fashion line. He bought the building 20 years ago, Grandma explained. Back when you first started sketching designs instead of just sewing. Said someday you'd need a proper atelier. The room erupted in chaos. Aunt Charlotte was crying about fairness and family obligations. Cousins were excitedly examining my portfolios. Mom looked like she might faint. But I was watching Vicky. My cousin stood silent, running her fingers over one of my evening wear sketches. This one, she said finally. I remember when you first drew something like it. We were 15, planning our futures. You said you'd design me a dress like this for my wedding someday. You remember that? I remember everything, she whispered. How patient you were teaching me about fashion. How you never got angry when I took all the credit for our joint projects. How you supported my blog even when I started pretending I'd learned everything from industry professionals instead of my cousin. She looked up, tears in her eyes. I got so caught up in the influencer persona, in what my followers expected, that I forgot who I really am, who we were together. The blue dress, I said quietly. The one you liked in Alessandro's studio. It's based on those old sketches we made together. I know, she smiled sadly. I recognize your signature layering technique. You always did love making fabric move like water. Alessandro cleared his throat. Perhaps this wedding dress could be a collaboration. The first official project of Maya's new atelier, with both your influences. You'd still want to work with me? Vicky asked. After how I've behaved. You're my cousin, I said simply. And somewhere under all the Instagram filters is the girl who used to spend hours discussing sleeve construction and hem techniques. What followed was a whirlwind of activity. The building needed renovation, but with Alessandro's help, we transformed it into a working atelier in record time. Vicky's wedding became our launch project, with her massive social media following documenting the entire process, giving full credit to both designers this time. The dress was everything we dreamed of creating together. Classic yet innovative, traditional yet uniquely modern. When Vicky walked down the aisle, the gasps weren't just for her beauty, but for the artistry she wore. Maya Anderson Designs opened officially the week after the wedding. Our first collection, a collaboration between me, Alessandro, and yes, Vicky, sold out within hours. Turns out authentic talent combined with social media influence is a powerful combination. Yesterday, I found an old photo while unpacking boxes in my new office. Two young girls in badly sundresses playing fashion designer in a suburban sewing room. I framed it and put it on my desk, next to the magazine covers featuring our wedding dress design. Vicky came by later, bringing coffee and sketches for our next collection. She saw the photo and smiled. "We were pretty good together, weren't we?" she said. "We still are," I replied. "Just needed a reminder of what really matters in fashion and family." She picked up her latest sketch, still very Vicky with its dramatic flair, but now grounded in real design principles. "Think Grandma was right about needing time to learn properly?" "She usually is." I adjusted a line on her drawing, showing how to make the draping work better. Success isn't just about talent or fame. It's about understanding your craft, respecting the process, and being true to your vision. And she added softly, remembering who helped you find that vision in the first place. The buzz of the workroom filtered through my office door. Seamstresses teaching apprentices, designers collaborating on new ideas, real fashion being created by real people who understood both artistry and craft. Sometimes the most authentic path isn't the most glamorous one. Sometimes you have to step back to move forward. And sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's helping them remember who they really are. Our spring collection debuts next week. The invitation list includes every family member who ever dismissed my little sewing hobby. They'll sit in the front row, watching as Maya Anderson Designs takes its place in the fashion world. Not bad for a plain seamstress from the suburbs. But the best part, every garment tag bears a small embroidered rose, Grandma's signature flower. Because some legacies aren't about money or property or social media fame. They're about honoring the people who taught you to create something real.
The Thompson family's annual financial meeting was in full swing at Uncle Richard's estate, where success was measured in designer labels and casual displays of wealth. I sat quietly in my $100 suit from Target, watching my relatives peacock around the room. "Sarah, darling," Aunt Margaret's voice dripped with fake concern as she adjusted her Cartier bracelet. "Still wearing that interesting suit? I have some hand-me-downs that might be more appropriate for family gatherings." I smoothed down my jacket, hiding a smile. The same jacket they mocked had attended more high-level financial meetings than their entire wardrobes combined. "I'm comfortable as I am, thank you." My cousin Derek snorted from his position by the wet bar, where he was already on his second scotch despite it being barely noon. "Comfortable being broke, you mean? How's that job at the investment firm going? Still pushing papers?" If they only knew that I didn't just work at Rivera Investment Group, I owned it. But they'd never bothered to ask which firm I worked for, too busy assuming I was some low-level clerk. "Still working there," I replied mildly. "How's the trust fund, Derek?" He flushed slightly. The family knew he'd blown through half his inheritance in bad investments, but they kept up appearances. Always appearances. Now, Uncle Richard called from his leather armchair, every inch the family patriarch. "Let's focus on business. We need to discuss the family investment portfolio." Yes, the portfolio. The reason for this annual display of financial superiority. Each year, the family pooled some of their resources for joint investments, carefully managed by qualified family members, meaning anyone but me. "I've made some excellent moves this quarter," my cousin Victoria announced, flipping her designer hair. "The European markets are dash." A knock at the door interrupted her speech. "Come in," Uncle Richard called, irritated at the disruption. A courier in a crisp uniform entered, holding a thick envelope. "Delivery for Miss Sarah Thompson?" The room went quiet. No one ever received deliveries during the family financial meeting. It was considered gauche to conduct personal business during this sacred time. "That's me," I said, standing. "Your Cayman Islands quarterly statement, ma'am. Needed a signature for this one." You could have heard a pin drop in that room. Aunt Margaret's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. Derek actually stopped drinking mid-sip. "Cayman Islands?" Uncle Richard's voice cracked slightly. "Sarah, what exactly dash?" "Thank you," I told the courier, signing for the envelope. I could feel every eye in the room fixed on the heavy paper in my hands. Victoria found her voice first. Since when do you have offshore accounts? You can barely afford your rent. I opened the envelope carefully, making sure the statement was visible to those nearest me. The number at the bottom gleamed in bold black ink. $897,426,531.09. Derek choked on his scotch. Oh my, I said softly, letting the statement fall casually on the coffee table. Looks like my investments did quite well this quarter. The room erupted in chaos. Relatives who had been studiously ignoring me suddenly crowded around, trying to get a better look at the statement. Victoria snatched it up, her perfectly manicured hands shaking. This has to be a mistake, she stammered. You're nobody. You just push papers at some investment firm. I stood up, straightening my target suit. Actually, Victoria, I own Rivera Investment Group. Have for the past 5 years. Though none of you ever bothered to ask which firm I worked for. Uncle Richard's face had gone an interesting shade of purple. Rivera Group? The same Rivera Group that's been buying up half the properties in the financial district. The very same, I smiled. Amazing what you can build while people underestimate you. Aunt Margaret collapsed onto the nearest chair, her Cartier bracelet clinking against her fresh glass of champagne. But you never said anything. All these years letting us think. Letting you think exactly what you wanted to think, I finished for her. It's amazing how much you can learn about the market when people assume you're just the help. My phone buzzed, probably another update on our latest acquisition. But that could wait. Right now, I was enjoying watching my family's carefully constructed hierarchy crumble in real time. The family portfolio, Derek suddenly blurted. With your experience. Now you want my help with investments? I laughed softly. Funny how a few $100 million changes people's perspectives. The statement lay on the coffee table like a bomb that had already detonated, its aftermath still rippling through the room. Years of condescension, of snide remarks about my clothes, my job, my life choices, all obliterated by a single number. Uncle Richard cleared his throat. Sarah, perhaps we should discuss this privately. As family. I checked my watch, a simple Timex that had horrified them at last year's meeting. Actually, I have a board meeting to attend. But don't worry. I smiled at my shell-shocked relatives. I'm sure Victoria has some excellent insights about the European markets to share. As I walked toward the door, leaving chaos in my wake, I couldn't help but add one final touch. Oh, and Aunt Margaret? About those hand-me-downs. I think I'll stick with Target. After all, I gestured at my simple suit. It served me quite well so far. The door closed behind me, but not before I heard Derek's whispered question. Did anyone even know she had a Cayman Islands account? Oh, dear cousin. That was rather the point. The aftermath of my revelation spread through the family like wildfire. Within hours, my phone was flooded with messages from relatives who'd never bothered to have my number before. I ignored them all as I sat in my office at Rivera Group's headquarters, reviewing our latest acquisition plans. The same office my family had never visited, assuming I worked in some cubicle somewhere. Miss Thompson. My assistant Grace appeared at the door. Your Uncle Richard is in the lobby. He's quite insistent about seeing you. I glanced at the security feed on my laptop. There he was, his expensive suit slightly rumpled, looking distinctly uncomfortable among the modern art and steel architecture of Rivera Group's lobby. Send him up, I said. And Grace. Hold all my calls. 5 minutes later, Uncle Richard stood in my office, his usual patriarch's confidence notably absent as he took in the corner office with its stunning city view. Nice space, he managed. Very impressive. Thank you, I replied, not offering him a seat. I assume this isn't a social call? He shifted uncomfortably. Sarah, about the family portfolio. Given your obvious expertise. You want me to manage it, I finished for him. Now that you know I'm not just pushing papers. Well, yes. Your success with Rivera Group is clearly the same success I had last year, I cut in. And the year before. When you all laughed at my investment suggestions and let Victoria handle everything because, and I quote, at least she dresses like a proper financier. He had the grace to look embarrassed. We may have been hasty in our judgments. Hasty. I smiled, pulling up some figures on my computer. Let's review those judgments, shall we? Last year, Victoria's European strategy lost the family portfolio 23%. The year before, Derek's foolproof tech investments dropped 15%. Yes, well. Meanwhile, I continued, turning my screen to show him, Rivera Group's returns have averaged 43% annually for the past 5 years. But none of you ever thought to ask what I actually did for a living. A knock at the door interrupted us. Grace entered with a stack of papers. The Singapore merger documents are ready for your signature, Ms. Thompson. And Mr. Chin from the Hong Kong office is online too. Thank you, Grace. Tell Mr. Chin I'll call him back regarding the billion-dollar expansion. Uncle Richard's eyes widened at the casual mention of billions. The same uncle who'd suggested I aim more realistically when I'd first entered finance. Sarah, he began again, his voice taking on the patronizing tone I knew so well. Families should stick together. Support each other. Surely you can see that managing the family portfolio would be the right thing to do. I leaned back in my chair, remembering all the family dinners where I'd been seated at the kids' table well into my 30s because I wasn't successful enough for adult conversations. You know what's interesting about success, Uncle Richard? It reveals people's true characters. When you thought I was nobody, I wasn't worth your time. Now that you know about my offshore accounts, suddenly I'm family again. That's not fair. We always considered you family. Really? I pulled up an email on my screen. Like when you emailed the entire family warning them not to invest in my risky career choices 5 years ago. The same year I acquired Rivera Group. He paled slightly. How did you? I own one of the largest investment firms in the country, I said quietly. Did you really think I wouldn't have copies of everything? My phone buzzed. Probably another update about our latest acquisition. The same kind of deal they'd never thought I was capable of handling. The family portfolio, I mused, watching him squirm. You know, I did try to help. 3 years ago I suggested investing in Asian tech markets. Victoria called it amateur hour, and Derek said I should stick to filing paperwork. We were wrong, he admitted. But now that we know now that you know I'm worth more than the entire family combined? I finished. Funny how money changes perspectives, isn't it? Another knock at the door. Grace again. Miss Thompson, your helicopter is ready for the Shanghai meeting. Uncle Richard's jaw actually dropped. Shanghai. Yes, I stood up, smoothing down my target suit. Some of us work for our success instead of inheriting it. Now if you'll excuse me. But the family portfolio is no longer my concern, I said firmly. Though I'm sure Victoria has some excellent insights about European markets to share. After all, she dresses like a proper financier, doesn't she? As I walked him to the door, I couldn't resist one final twist of the knife. Oh, and Uncle Richard? That building your office is in? Rivera Group just bought it. You might want to warn the family that rent's going up next quarter. The look on his face was worth every condescending remark they'd ever made about my clothes, my career, my life choices. Sometimes success isn't just about making money. Sometimes it's about watching people realize they bet on the wrong horse. 2 weeks after the offshore account revelation, I sat in my office reviewing an interesting proposal. The family's precious investment portfolio companies were struggling, and their stock prices had dropped significantly. A perfect acquisition opportunity. A message popped up from Grace. Your cousin Victoria is here. Says it's urgent. I smiled, remembering how Victoria used to forget to invite me to her exclusive investment seminars. Send her in. Victoria entered, her designer outfit somehow less impressive in my modernist office. The confidence she'd always worn like armor had cracked, revealing the insecurity beneath. Sarah, she started, clutching her Hermes bag like a shield. We need to talk about the family portfolio. We really don't, I replied, not looking up from my screen where I was reviewing the purchase order for her favorite company. It's falling apart, she admitted. The European investments lost another 40% this quarter, I finished. I know. I've been watching. She sank into a chair uninvited. How do you always know everything? Because while you were busy showing off your MBA from Harvard, I was actually learning how markets work. Amazing what you can see when people think you're nobody. My phone buzzed. A message from my Hong Kong office confirming our latest acquisition. Perfect timing. Sarah, please. Victoria's voice cracked slightly. The family's losing everything. Uncle Richard's had to sell his summer house. Derek's trust fund is almost empty. Even Mom. Aunt Margaret's still having trouble paying for her country club membership? I asked innocently. Shame about that rent increase on her boutique's building. Victoria's eyes widened. That was you. You bought the entire block. I bought most of downtown, I corrected. While you were all laughing about my Target suits, I was building an empire. Funny how that works. Grace appeared at the door. Miss Thompson? The board is ready for your announcement about the Hunter Group acquisition. Victoria gasped. Hunter Group? But that's my biggest investment. Was your biggest investment, I corrected. As of 10 minutes ago, it belongs to Rivera Group, along with most of the family portfolio's major holdings. I turned my laptop to show her the press release draft. Rivera Investment Group acquires Hunter Group in billion-dollar deal. You're destroying us, she whispered. No, Victoria. You did that yourselves. I'm just cleaning up the mess. I stood up, straightening my simple blazer. Would you like to know what really makes me different from you? She looked up, mascara smudging slightly. I never needed designer suits or fancy titles to prove my worth. Success isn't about looking rich. It's about being smart enough to let people underestimate you until it's too late. A notification popped up on my screen. The Hunter Group acquisition was complete. Victoria's last major client, now under my control. You know what the best part is? I continued. Every time you mocked my clothes, my job, my life, you were actually mocking the person who would eventually own everything you valued. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now. I checked my watch, a Timex that had survived every deal I'd ever closed. Now you get to experience what real work feels like. The family's trust funds are gone, their investments collapsed, their properties mortgaged. Time to earn a living. But we're family, she protested weakly. Funny how that word only matters when you need something. I pressed the intercom. Grace, please show my cousin out. And send in the board, we have an acquisition to celebrate. Victoria stood on shaky legs. Sarah, I'm sorry. For everything. I know, I replied. But here's the thing about success, Victoria. It doesn't care about apologies. It only cares about results. As she left, I watched her designer heels stumble slightly on the polished floors of my empire. The same empire I'd built while they thought I was nothing. My phone buzzed again, Uncle Richard probably calling to beg for help with his mounting debts. I declined the call just as they'd declined my investment advice for years. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's watching people realize that the person they underestimated now owns everything they took for granted. I straightened my Target suit and headed to the boardroom. After all, I had an acquisition to announce, and a family legacy to dismantle one company at a time. Because in the end, it's not about the clothes you wear or the labels you flash. It's about the empire you build while everyone else is too busy showing off to notice. And my empire? It was just getting started. The next morning, the financial news was dominated by Rivera Group's latest acquisitions. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing with messages from family members who suddenly remembered my existence. Derek sent a desperate text. Please, I need a job. Any position. I typed back. The mailroom is hiring. Time to learn what real work feels like. Aunt Margaret called in tears about her boutique's rent. Uncle Richard's voicemail begged for a meeting. Victoria's Instagram posts about luxury lifestyle consulting had gone quiet. But I was too busy to respond. In my Target suit and Timex watch, I was closing another billion-dollar deal. Because true power isn't about showing off wealth. It's about building it quietly while others waste time pretending to be rich. My assistant brought in the morning paper. The headline said it all. Rivera Group CEO Sarah Thompson, the silent billionaire who bought her family's empire. The annual Thompson family gathering was in full swing at my parents' estate, the usual parade of designer clothes and luxury cars dotting the circular driveway. I pulled up in my used Toyota Corolla, deliberately parking between my brother James's Ferrari and my sister Victoria's Bentley. Look who finally made it, James called out as I entered the mansion's grand foyer. Still driving that rust bucket, Sarah? I smiled, smoothing my simple black dress. Another deliberate choice. It gets me where I need to go. You know, Victoria chimed in, champagne glass in hand, Bradley's dealership could get you something more appropriate for a Thompson. If you could afford the payments, that is. The siblings shared a knowing laugh. Poor Sarah, the family disappointment, who'd turned down a position in Thompson Industries to start her own tech company. 5 years of them mocking my humble lifestyle while I poured every penny into research and development. They only knew. Sarah, darling. Mom swooped in, air-kissing my cheeks. We were just discussing the family portfolio. James's division posted record profits this quarter. That's wonderful, I replied, checking my watch. Right on schedule. It must be hard, James continued, enjoying his favorite sport, needling his little sister. Watching us succeed while you're still, what do you call it? Building your startup? Dad joined the group, scotch in hand. You know, Princess, that offer to join the family business still stands. No shame in admitting you need help. I checked my phone, reading the message that had just arrived. Package secured. All systems go. Actually, I said, I have some news about my company. Finally selling that little app of yours? Victoria smirked. Not exactly. I moved toward the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the back lawn. But I did make a significant acquisition today. James laughed. What acquisition? You can't even afford a new car. The distant sound of helicopter blades cut through the party chatter. That would be my ride, I said calmly, watching their confused expressions. And about that acquisition. I turned to my father. Congratulations on selling Thompson Technologies. The board approved my purchase offer an hour ago. The helicopter, my helicopter emblazoned with my company's logo, appeared over the trees, descending toward the manicured lawn. Mom's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor as she fainted dead away. This is a joke, James sputtered, his face reddening. Thompson Technologies is worth billions. You can't possibly. $8.7 billion to be exact, I interrupted, pulling up the confirmation email on my phone. Though I got it for $7.2 billion. The board was quite eager to sell after seeing my company's latest innovations. Victoria grabbed Dad's arm. Daddy, what is she talking about? Our father had gone pale, finally recognizing the logo on the helicopter's tail. Quantum Apex, he whispered. You're Quantum Apex? The mysterious tech company that had revolutionized quantum computing. The startup that had Wall Street in a frenzy. The corporation valued at $50 billion that had maintained its CEO's anonymity until now. Surprised? I asked, watching the helicopter land. All those years of living poorly, I was investing everything into research. Building something bigger than Thompson Technologies could ever be. Mom stirred from her faint, helped up by concerned relatives. Sarah, what have you done? What you all said I couldn't do, I replied. Remember when you called my ideas unrealistic? When James said quantum computing was a dead end? When Dad refused to let me head the tech division because I lacked experience? The party had gone silent, all eyes moving between me and the sleek black helicopter on the lawn. That's Harrison Chin, someone gasped, recognizing the man emerging from the helicopter. The Silicon Valley venture capitalist. Paisu, I corrected. He believed in my vision when my own family wouldn't. Along with the team of scientists and engineers who saw what Thompson Technologies missed, the future. James lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You betrayed the family. Buying our company behind our backs. No, I cut him off, pulling free. I beat you at your own game. Fair and square. The same way you said I never could. Dad seemed to age years and minutes. Why didn't you tell us? All this time. Would you have believed me? I asked. Or would you have tried to take control, like you did with every other opportunity one ever had? Harrison entered through the patio doors, tablet in hand. Sarah, the press is waiting. They want a statement about the acquisition. Tell them the truth, I said loud enough for everyone to hear. Tell them Quantum Apex's CEO just bought her family's company. Tell them the Thompson girl they said would never succeed just became their boss. Victoria collapsed into a chair. All those times we teased you about your car. I could have bought a fleet of Ferraris, I smiled. But I had better things to do with my money. Like building the largest quantum computing company in the world. Mom stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Sweetheart, we never meant to. To what? Doubt me? Dismiss me? Push me aside for James and Victoria? I checked my watch again. The press conference starts in an hour. I need to go. In that. James gestured to my simple dress. I walked to the helicopter, then turned back one last time. No, dear brother. In my other outfit. I nodded to Harrison, who handed me a garment bag. Inside was a designer suit that cost more than James's Ferrari. By the way, I added, that rust bucket in the driveway? Keep it as a souvenir. A reminder of how badly you all misjudged me. The helicopter blades began to spin as Harrison helped me aboard. Through the window, I could see my family's shocked faces, their perfect world turned upside down by the sister they'd underestimated. One more thing, I called out over the roar of the engines. James, Victoria, check your emails. The board's restructuring starts tomorrow. Hope you're ready to work for your little sister. As we lifted off, Harrison handed me the acquisition papers. Congratulations, CEO Thompson. Or should I say boss? I smiled, watching my family become tiny figures below. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's showing up in a helicopter when they think you can't afford a car. The press conference was a media frenzy. Every major network carried the story. Quantum Apexo revealed. Sarah Thompson acquires family business IN $7.2 billion deal. I stood at the podium in my power suit, finally stepping into the spotlight I'd avoided for 5 years. The questions came rapid fire. Miss Thompson, why keep your identity secret all this time? Was this acquisition personal or strategic? How does your family feel about working for you now? Let me be clear, I addressed the packed room. Quantum Apex's acquisition of Thompson Technologies isn't about family drama. It's about innovation. While Thompson Tech focused on outdated systems, we were revolutionizing quantum computing. The screens behind me displayed our latest achievements, breakthrough technologies that had made me a fortune and changed the industry forever. Sarah. My father's voice boomed from the back of the room. He'd followed us to the press conference, still wearing his party clothes. This is our legacy you're playing with. The reporters spun around, cameras flashing. They couldn't have scripted better drama. Your legacy? I replied, my voice carrying through the microphone. Or your control? I clicked to the next slide, showing Thompson Technologies' declining market share. Under your leadership, our family company fell behind. While you were busy grooming James to take over, I was building the future. Harrison stepped forward with more charts. Thompson Technologies has lost 40% of its market value in the past 3 years. Meanwhile, Quantum Apex's value has increased tenfold. Because you stole our research. James shouted, appearing beside Dad. I laughed, the sound echoing through the speakers. Stole? Every patent, every innovation, every breakthrough is original Quantum Apex technology. The same technology you rejected when I presented it to the Thompson board 5 years ago. The reporters were scribbling frantically, eating up every word. Remember that board meeting, James? When you said quantum computing was, and I quote, a waste of resources. I pulled up the minutes from that very meeting. When Dad said I was too inexperienced to lead the tech division, Victoria appeared next, designer dress wrinkled from rushing over. Sarah, please. We can talk about this privately. Like we talked about my ideas privately? Or like how you privately convinced Dad to pass me over for promotion 3 times. I turned back to the reporters. Let me show you something interesting. The screens displayed a series of emails correspondence between my siblings and father, systematically working to undermine my position in the company. While my family was plotting to keep me away from any real power at Thompson Technologies, I was building something they couldn't control. I gestured to Harrison, who unveiled our latest quantum processor. This single chip has more computing power than all of Thompson Tech's mainframes combined. Dad stepped forward, his face a mix of anger and desperation. You'll destroy everything we built. No, Dad. I'm saving it. Quantum Apex isn't just acquiring Thompson Technologies, we're revolutionizing it. Those who can adapt will stay. Those who can't. I met his eyes directly, will be thanked for their service. The room erupted with questions, cameras flashing like strobe lights. But I wasn't done. Starting tomorrow, Thompson Technologies will be rebranded as Quantum Thompson, a subsidiary of Quantum Apex. I've already appointed a new board of directors, experts in quantum computing, AI, and digital innovation. You can't do this. James protested. Actually, I can. And I did. I pulled up the final slide, the new company structure. As for the Thompson family's involvement, Dad, James, Victoria, you're welcome to stay on. In entry-level positions. It's time you learned how real innovation works. Mom burst into the room, tears streaming down her face. Sarah, mi amor, please. We're family. Yes, we are. Which is why I'm giving you all jobs instead of golden parachutes. Consider it my way of teaching the family business. Harrison approached with another tablet. The market's responding. Quantum Apex stock is up 15% since the announcement. I smiled, thinking of my old Toyota Corolla and all the years of pretending to struggle. Speaking of stock, I should mention one more thing. I turned to my family. Remember all those times you teased me about being poor? About not being able to afford a nice car? They nodded numbly. I own 70% of Quantum Apex's shares. As of today's market close, that makes me worth approximately $35 billion. I paused, letting that sink in. Which means I could buy and sell Thompson Technologies 10 times over. With cash. The reporters were going wild, but I only cared about 4 faces in the crowd, my family, finally realizing just how badly they'd underestimated their poor little Sarah. Now, I concluded, who's ready to learn how real business is done? Your orientation starts tomorrow. Don't be late, your little sister runs a tight ship. The next morning, the Thompson family arrived at Quantum Apex headquarters, a gleaming 70-story tower that made Thompson Technologies building look like a corner store. They stood in the lobby, still processing the events of the past 24 hours. Good morning, Mr. Thompson, Miss Thompson, the security guard greeted them. Your visitor badges are ready. Please wait for your escort. Visitor badges? James sputtered. Do you know who we are? Of course, sir. You're the CEO's family. Here for new employee orientation. I watched the scene unfold on the security feeds from my penthouse office. The same office they told me I'd never earn. Harrison stood beside me reviewing the morning reports. The market's loving this, he said. Stock's up another 20%. Your rags to riches story is trending worldwide. Time to greet the new employees. I smiled, straightening my Armani suit. How's Dad handling the reorganization news? Not well. He's been calling board members all night trying to block the merger. Nobody's taking his calls. The elevator ride to the lobby felt like a victory lap. 5 years of secrecy, of letting them think I was struggling, had led to this moment. The doors opened to reveal my family, looking lost in the vast ultramodern space. Welcome to Quantum Apex, I announced, striding toward them. Or should I say your new workplace? This is ridiculous, Victoria protested. We have decades of experience running Thompson Technologies. Running it into the ground, I corrected, pulling up company statistics on the lobby's massive digital wall. Your experience cost shareholders billions while you focused on maintaining family control instead of innovating. Mom stepped forward, trying a different approach. Mija, we're proud of what you've built, but surely we can find a compromise? Like the compromises you offered me? I led them to the elevator, accessing the secure executive floor with my biometric scan. Let me show you something. The doors opened to reveal a museum-like space displaying Quantum Apex's achievements. While you were laughing at my failed startup, I was revolutionizing quantum computing. Every patent, every breakthrough, every innovation that made this company worth $50 billion, they all came from the daughter you said would never succeed. But the secrecy, Dad finally spoke. Why hide who you were? Because you would have tried to take control just like you're trying now. I pulled up his phone records on a nearby screen. Calling board members at midnight? Really, Dad? James paled. You monitor our phones? I monitor everything. How do you think I stayed ahead of you all these years? I led them to a conference room where Harrison waited with orientation packets. Now about your new positions. You can't seriously expect us to start at the bottom, Victoria interrupted. Actually, I can. And I'll tell you why. I clicked through slides showing their past performance. James, your division lost $300 million on failed projects. Victoria, your marketing strategies were outdated 5 years ago. And Dad, I paused, meeting his eyes. You rejected quantum computing as science fiction when I proposed it. We made mistakes, Dad admitted. But we're still Thompsons. Yes, you are. Which is exactly why you need to earn your positions this time. I distributed employee handbooks. Welcome to Quantum Apex's Advanced Technology Training Program. 6 months of intensive learning, starting with basic quantum computing principles. 6 months. James looked horrified. Of training. Consider it a crash course in humility. The same humility you never showed me. I pulled up the org chart. You'll report to people half your age who actually understand modern technology. You'll learn what real innovation looks like. And if we refuse? Dad challenged. Then you can watch from the sidelines as I transform Thomson Technologies into something you never had the vision to build. I smiled. Your choice. Mom sank into a chair, finally understanding the magnitude of the situation. All those years living in that small apartment, driving that old car. I was investing every penny in research and development. Building this. I gestured to the empire around us. While you were all showing off your luxury cars and vacation homes, I was creating the future. Harrison entered with more papers. The press is requesting a family photo. They're calling it the Thompson dynasty's new queen. What do you say, family? I asked. Ready to show the world what it looks like when the underestimated daughter becomes the boss? They looked at each other, then at the orientation packets, then at the empire I'd built while they weren't watching. One condition, Dad said quietly. We want to understand. Really understand what you've built here. That's all I ever wanted, I replied. For you to see what I could do if given the chance. I turned to Harrison. Schedule them for the advanced coding class. Let's see if the Thompsons can learn some new tricks. As my family filed out to begin their orientation, I caught my reflection in the window. Sarah Thompson. The poor little sister who bought her family's company with the fortune they never knew she had. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong. It's teaching them exactly why they were wrong in the first place. Oh, and James. I called after them. About that Ferrari in Dad's driveway? Move it. My helicopter needs somewhere to land. The familiar scent of my grandmother's antique shop filled my lungs as I walked through the creaking wooden door. 5 years ago, when she left it to me in her will, my family had laughed. A dusty old antique shop? What a waste, my sister Diana had sneered. But I saw what they didn't, potential. I ran my fingers along the polished mahogany counter, remembering those early days. While they thought I was just arranging furniture and dusting shelves, I was building an empire. The small shop had become the headquarters of Walker Acquisitions, though the antique store facade remained. Ms. Walker. My assistant James appeared from the back office. The Anderson Holdings paperwork is ready. And your mother called again about dinner tonight. I sighed, checking my watch. The monthly remind Emily she's a disappointment, dinner. Can't wait. Behind the shop's vintage displays lay my real office, all glass, chrome and state-of-the-art technology. The antique store was profitable, but it was my cover for the real business, acquiring struggling luxury brands and high-end retail chains. Your sister's company filed for bankruptcy protection this morning, James reported, handing me the financial reports. They don't know we've been buying their debt. Diana, the successful one, had risen to CFO of Luxury Retail International, one of the largest luxury goods companies in the country. She never missed a chance to compare her corporate success to my little shop. Have they announced it publicly? I asked, reviewing the numbers. No, they're trying to keep it quiet. But they need a bailout by Friday or everything collapses. I smiled, thinking of tonight's family dinner. Diana would be there, probably wearing another designer outfit she couldn't afford, bragging about her latest business triumph. Meanwhile, her company was crumbling, and she had no idea her unsuccessful sister held their fate in her hands. My phone buzzed. Mom's text. Don't be late like last time. Diana has big news to share. I changed from my casual shop clothes into a simple but expensive dress. Nothing flashy, nothing that would hint at my true worth. The antique shop's bell chimed as I locked up, a sound that always made me smile. Such a perfect cover. My driver waited discreetly around the corner. No need to arrive at dinner in my actual car. That would raise too many questions. Instead, I took my old Honda, maintaining the illusion of the modest shopkeeper. Mom's house was lit up like Christmas, expensive cars filling the driveway. Diana's red sports car sat prominently in front as usual. I parked on the street. Emily. Finally, Mom greeted me with her usual mix of disappointment and resignation. Diana's telling us about her latest promotion. I entered the dining room to find Diana holding court, dressed in head-to-toe designer labels. Dad beamed at her while my younger brother Mark texted under the table, bored as usual. There you are. Diana's smile didn't reach her eyes. I was just telling everyone about our company's expansion plans. We're acquiring 3 new luxury brands next month. I took my seat quietly, knowing those acquisitions would never happen. Her company wouldn't exist in its current form by next month. Still running that tiny shop? Diana smirked between sips of expensive wine. You know, we're actually opening a new boutique in that area. Might affect your, what do you call it, foot traffic. The shop does fine, I replied mildly, checking my phone as it buzzed. A message from James. Final paperwork ready. Coming over now. Emily phones away, Mom scolded. Diana's telling us about her new summer home. I texted back quickly. Perfect timing. Family dinner in progress. Diana was in full flow. The merger next week will make us the largest luxury retail group in the country. Of course, Emily, this is probably all over your head. How's the antique business? Still selling old furniture? The doorbell rang. I'll get it, I said, standing up. That's for me. Really, Emily? Mom frowned. Who could be visiting you here? I opened the door to James, impeccable in his suit, holding a leather portfolio. The papers you requested, Ms. Walker. Diana's voice carried from the dining room, probably some dusty old cabinet she's buying. I led James into the dining room, enjoying the confused looks on my family's faces. Everyone, this is James, my assistant. He has some documents I need to review. Assistant. Dad frowned. For the antique shop? James placed the portfolio on the table, smoothly moving Diana's wine glass aside. Ms. Walker, here's the contract to buy their company. Everything's ready for your signature. Dead silence fell over the room. What company? Diana asked, her voice suddenly sharp. I opened the portfolio, revealing the familiar Luxury Retail International logo on top of the acquisition papers. Yours, dear sister. Did you really think no one would notice your company was failing? The wine glass slipped from Diana's hand, shattering on the floor. But that was just the beginning. The sound of Diana's shattered wine glass still echoed as James efficiently laid out the acquisition documents across our mother's prized mahogany dining table. This is impossible. Diana stuttered, her perfectly manicured hands trembling as she reached for the papers. Luxury Retail International is worth billions. Was worth billions, I corrected softly. Before you authorized those risky expansions. Before the hidden debt started mounting. Tell me, Diana, does the board know you've been cooking the books for the past year? The color drained from her face. How did you? Your creative accounting might fool the public, but not my forensic team. I nodded to James, who produced another folder. We've been tracking every unauthorized loan, every manipulated earnings report. Did you really think nobody would notice $300 million missing from the pension fund? Dad, a retired financial advisor, grabbed the documents with shaking hands. His face went ashen as he read. Diana, tell me this isn't true. Of course it's not true, she shrieked, standing up so suddenly her chair toppled backward. This is some sick joke. Emily runs an antique shop. She sells old furniture. I smiled, removing my simple cardigan to reveal a Valentino blouse underneath. Walker Acquisitions operates out of that old furniture shop. We specialize in luxury brand acquisitions and turnarounds. Currently managing a portfolio worth $4.2 billion. Mom's hand flew to her chest. But all these years. All these years, I continued. While Diana was bragging about her corner office, I was building an empire. While she was buying designer clothes on credit, I was buying controlling interests in the companies that make them. James cleared his throat. Ms. Walker, shall I show them the ownership structure? Please do. I watched as he projected a complex corporate chart onto the dining room wall using a small device. At the top sat Walker Holdings, my parent company, with dozens of luxury brands branching beneath it. See that empty space at the bottom? I pointed. That's where Luxury Retail International will go. Once we clean up Diana's mess. You can't do this. Diana lunged for the papers, but James smoothly intercepted them. I'm the CFO. I have rights. Had rights, I corrected. The board called an emergency meeting this afternoon. They've unanimously accepted our offer. Your termination is effective immediately. Mark, my younger brother, finally looked up from his phone, whistling low. Holy shit, you're like, actually rich. Language. Mom snapped automatically, then turned to me with dawning horror. All those times we criticized you for working in that shop. Those family vacations you couldn't afford to join. I was in Paris those weeks, I shrugged. Negotiating acquisitions. Dubai the month after. Tokyo in spring. Diana collapsed back into her righted chair, mascara starting to run. The summer house. My contracts. My life. Is built on fraud, I finished. Though I'm willing to keep that quiet for the family's sake. If you cooperate. Dad stood up, his banker's instincts finally kicking in. Emily, surely we can discuss this? As a family. Like you discussed cutting me out of your will 3 years ago? I raised an eyebrow. James, show them the trust ownership papers. Another document appeared on the wall. The family trust's legal structure. My name sat at the top. I bought out your financial advisor 2 years ago, I explained. The trust has been under my management since then. Those amazing returns you've been bragging about at golf. Dad? That was my team's work. Mom started crying softly. Why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. Or would you have found a way to give Diana credit for that too? The room fell silent except for Diana's muffled sobs. James efficiently gathered the documents, leaving only the final acquisition contract. You have 2 choices, Diana, I said, sliding the contract across the table. Sign this, accept a modest consulting position in our Asian office, and we keep your creative accounting quiet. Or don't sign and I let the SEC handle it. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. I'm your sister. I pulled out my phone, showing her the drafted press release about the fraud investigation. Try me. The expensive pen in her hand shook as she signed, tears smearing the signature. Welcome to Walker Holdings, I smiled. Human Resources will contact you about your relocation to Singapore. Singapore. Mom gasped. But what about her life here? Her life here is over, I stated flatly. Unless she prefers prison? Diana's shoulders slumped in defeat. James collected the signed contract and nodded. I'll process this immediately, Ms. Walker. Your car is waiting whenever you're ready. Mom clutched her pearls. Car? That old Honda. On cue through the dining room window, they watched as a Rolls-Royce Ghost pulled up, driver standing at attention. That's more my style, I said, standing up. Though the Honda was a nice touch, don't you think? Really sold the struggling shopkeeper image. The following morning I sat in my real office, the entire top floor of a downtown skyscraper hidden behind the facade of my antique shop. The space was designed to my exact specifications. One wall entirely of smart glass overlooking the city, rare art pieces worth millions decorating the walls, and at the center my grandmother's original antique desk. A reminder of where it all began. James entered with my morning coffee and the latest reports. Diana cleared out her office at Alrai last night. Security footage shows her having quite the emotional moment. I watched the footage on my tablet. Diana screaming at security, throwing her designer handbag, trying to download files that had already been locked. Send her a first-class ticket to Singapore. One way. And make sure her new apartment there is modest. Already done. Your parents have been calling non-stop since 6 a.m. Of course they had. I glanced at my phone. 28 missed calls, 43 messages. Mom, please, we need to talk. We didn't know. Dad, I've reviewed the trust documents. We need to discuss this. Mark, sis, you're trending on Twitter. The shop girl billionaire, they're calling you. The last one made me smile. The press had gotten wind of the acquisition, and the story was too good to resist. The hidden billionaire operating behind an antique shop facade, secretly controlling some of the world's most prestigious luxury brands. Ms. Walker, James interrupted my thoughts. The family is here. All of them. I straightened my Chanel suit. No more need for modest disguises. Send them in. They entered like chastened children. Mom clutching her outdated designer bag, Dad looking diminished without his usual arrogance, Mark actually not on his phone for once. Diana wasn't with them, presumably packing for Singapore. Emily, Mom started then stopped, taking in the magnificent office. This is incredible. The antique shop, Dad said slowly. It was just a front? Not exactly. I gestured to my grandmother's desk. This is where it started. Grandmother left me more than just a shop. She left me her business instincts. While you were all pushing Diana to climb the corporate ladder, I was building my own empire. But why keep it secret? Mark asked. You could have shut us up years ago. I stood walking to the window. Remember Diana's college graduation? Mom, you said something I never forgot. Success isn't about what you achieve, it's about who sees you achieve it. Mom flinched. I didn't mean. You did, I cut her off. Everything was about appearance with this family. Diana's fancy title, her expensive clothes, her social media presence. But real power, real success. It doesn't need an audience. James appeared with contracts. The trust restructuring documents you requested, Ms. Walker. Dad stepped forward eagerly. About the trust, surely we can discuss. These documents transfer full control of the family trust to Mark, I announced. They all froze. Mark dropped his phone. Me, he squeaked. But I'm the youngest. I just manage that little tech startup. Which has potential, I nodded. Unlike Diana, you actually built something yourself. No shortcuts, no fraud, just hard work. The trust will give you the capital to expand. Emily, Mom tried again, tears forming. We're so sorry. We never saw. That's the point, Mom. You never saw because you weren't looking. Too busy posting about Diana's fake success to notice real success right in front of you. I pressed a button and the smart glass wall turned into a display showing my company's holdings. Luxury brands, real estate, technology firms, and at the center one small antique shop. Diana's actions nearly destroyed a century-old company, I continued. She'll learn humility in Singapore starting from the bottom. Meanwhile, Mark will get the support he actually deserves. And us? Dad asked quietly. You'll keep your allowance from the trust. Your social standing is safe. My voice turned cold. But you'll never have control over it again. Consider it the price of blind privilege. Mom sank into a chair. All those family events you missed because of shop inventory. Board meetings in Milan. Acquisitions in Paris. Running an empire takes time. I smiled slightly. Though the shop does still do inventory every Sunday. James appeared again. Ms. Walker, the press is waiting in the lobby. They're requesting a statement about the shop girl billionaire. Tell them. I paused, looking at my shocked family. Tell them success isn't about designer labels or corner offices. Sometimes it's about keeping your head down, doing the work and building something real. Even if no one's watching. As security escorted them out, I sat at my grandmother's desk, running my hands over the worn wood. On the wall hung a single photograph. Me at 18 standing proudly in front of the antique shop with my grandmother. You were right, Gran, I whispered. Success isn't what you show people. It's what you build while they're not looking. James entered one final time. Diana's flight to Singapore is confirmed. And the antique shop just sold a Victorian armoire. I smiled. Some things don't need to change. I picked up my phone, turning off the call forwarding that had hidden my real office for years. But some things do. The sun set over the city, casting golden light across my empire. Tomorrow the world would know about the shopgirl billionaire. But tonight I had an antique shop to close up. After all, that's where it all began. And that's where I'd always keep my heart, even if my name was now on 100 corporate towers. Sometimes the biggest power moves aren't the ones you broadcast, they're the ones you keep quiet until exactly the right moment.